Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. And a very warm welcome to Friday's edition. Is it Friday already? Frank Crunchy, it's Friday. Welcome to Friday's edition of the DCU Daily. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. On Snapchat, Mick, your host with the most, and on TikTok, Mad Mickey's World. So I've got some DCU updates for you today. Well, I've got a couple. One's not really DCU directly, but it is about this legal copyright situation. So let's see what's going on there. And I've also got a Lanterns update for you. So Warner Brothers and DC Comics moved to dismiss Schuster Estate's Superman foreign copyright suit. WB argues courts have upheld a 1992 deal where Joe Shuster's sister assigned any and all Superman rights to DC with no exceptions, fully settling the matter. Now that's very, very interesting because if you remember, as we were building up to the release of Man of Steel, there was a huge court battle, legal battle, because there were certain things that the family's estate was fighting for. They wanted the rights for Krypton and certain other things in the Superman mythos. So what Warner Brothers are saying here, you've tried this before, you can't do this again, you've tried this before, it's all been settled, but this legal action was prior to Man of Steel and after 1992, and I tell you what, it went for a very, very long time. And you know what? It wasn't too far away from the estate winning this case. But when you're an ordinary person, when you're not a studio and you're fighting a studio, it's very hard to win this case. So Warner Brothers and DC Comics want this thrown out. And this is all to do with the Schuster estate wanting Superman foreign copyright profits, right? Or a share of the profits. Now, more than likely, and I'm not a legal expert, and neither are most of you, I'd love to talk to a legal expert to tell me if the Schuster estate has a leg to stand on here. So maybe you can find me over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and we can discuss this. Because it's very interesting. As a Superman fan, a DC fan, I want to know, when I talk about these things, I want to be talking honestly and try and educate you, my fellow fans out there, so we all know where we stand in this situation. So, Warner Brothers, listen, this is the Warner Brothers DC Comics side of the argument. People are hearing this and going, yeah, you see, Warner Brothers already won this, they're going to throw it out. No, of course they want it thrown out. This is just Warner Brothers legal representatives making an argument. The Schuster estate's representatives and lawyers and solicitors will be making their argument, which I haven't heard. So I don't really know if they have a leg to stand on. If this case is not thrown out, my theory would be that they would have to delay the release of Superman. Because the dispute is about 3 to 5 countries when we're talking about this foreign copyright suit. But every penny matters, especially to these studios, especially a debt-ridden studio like Warner Brothers that is on the verge of bankruptcy, right? It's bad enough they need this movie to succeed, that everything is riding on this one movie for WB, for DC, for James Gunn, for DC Studios, for the DCU. Superman is so important. And what they can't afford here is for this case to be prolonged. So if this isn't thrown out like Warner Brothers want it to, it's going to go on, it's going to go on, and it's going to go on. And I can only see one conclusion here, that Superman is at least delayed for another year. Now, I could be wrong, but that, knowing the industry, understanding studios and how their minds work, I would see this movie being delayed if this lawsuit continues. So Warner Brothers will want this dealt with to their advantage as soon as possible. And I understand a lot of the fans out there frustrated with the with the Schuster estate doing this now. The timing, of course, is brilliant for them because it puts WB under pressure, and if they don't get it thrown out, they'll have to settle with the Schusters because they will not want to delay this movie. And I understand fans angry with the Schuster family because all you care about is seeing Superman movies, TV shows, DC, and all that. You want to see the movies, you want to see Superman, and you don't want anything getting in your way. I feel exactly the same way. But another side of me does sympathise with Jerry and Joe, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. They were done dirty by Detective Comics, which was what DC Comics were originally called. They didn't get a lot of money. Now, to be fair to the different leaderships of WB through the years, they did try and compensate Siegel and Shuster for this. But it was never enough for them or the family. And, you know, comic book writers and artists have been done dirty throughout history. And we know that. So I do feel bad, but Jerry and Joe are no longer here. That's important to say. But obviously, if they profited in the right way on their creation, then the families would have profited too. So it's a very, very complex issue. My hunch thinks that this will be thrown out, but I'm no legal expert. And if this runs and runs and runs, you know, Warner Brothers will be thinking of delaying Superman because I don't know how it works during a legal proceedings. You know, would they profit with that international copyright? Would they have to wait until a decision is met to hand over any money? I guess they would, but it means they don't know what profits they're making. So it's an uncomfortable thing for DC Comics and WB. And of course, here on Movies TV Mad, I will be honest with you, and I will give it to you straight down the throat, down the barrel, like I always do. I'm not here to take sides. I'm not here to tell you something that's not true. And I've tried to explain the situation as well as possible. As all DC and Superman fans hope that this can be settled as soon as possible. There are fandoms who would want this to be prolonged because they hate WB and they want this Superman film to fail. I also understand your point of view, but you're dealing with a powerful organisation in DC Comics and WB. And more likely than not, this will be thrown out instantaneously, but I'm no solicitor, I'm no legal mind, and we'll have to wait and see. Now let's move over to Lanterns. So, the Guardians of the Universe will appear in Lanterns according to Purna Jagannathan, who's an actress on the show. It's all the characters you love and know, the Lanterns, the Guardians, and Sinestro. All that world is still intact, and yet everyone is presented as hero and villain. So it looks like we're going to see a flawed kind of story here, showing that, you know, the Guardians are flawed because the Guardians are flawed even in the comics, right? So we're going to see them kind of flawed. The Guardians aren't perfect. So I'm happy we're going to see the Guardians, and then they're talking about Guardians of the Universe will appear in Lanterns according to, and, you know, all the characters that we know. Lots of Lanterns will appear as well, the famous ones that we know, which is a good thing, because what you can't have is Hal Jordan and John Stewart, you know, dressed as civilians. It can't just be an Earth-based story. So anyway, there's that update. But I want to talk about this a little bit more, because I think the reason that she's come out and said this is because that original tease of John Stewart and Hal Jordan, you know, just walking on a street in civilian clothes didn't go down too well. And the internet is ruthless when they don't like something. And everyone was mocking it. No, not just Snyder fans, as well as Snyder fans. Snyder fans are blamed for everything. But there's a distinct dislike, not only from Snyder fans, in what James Gunn and DC Studios are doing with the DCU. You know, I hear this thing, oh, DCU haters, you know. Well, nobody hates the DCU before they've seen it. And nobody hates, I mean, I know the Snyder fans do hate James Gunn. I personally do not dislike James Gunn at all, and I respect him as a good, capable writer-director. But because you call people out when you don't agree with what they're doing or saying, it doesn't mean you have an agenda. It means you're being honest with your audience. I must be honest and direct with my audience. I have, I built up a relationship with you guys, and it's important to be honest about the news that we get. So, it's very interesting. I don't know if Lanterns will be any good. As I've said, I wanted an epic Lanterns, at least trilogy, with lots of money spent on it. As I've said many times, the Green Lantern Corps is a universe within a universe. It's Star Wars in the DC universe. And the missed potential of not putting this on the big screen is outrageous. James Gunn said he got to choose what went to streaming and what went to movie theatres. I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but what creative in their right mind goes, oh, I know, we'll put Lanterns on streaming and we won't make a big Green Lantern Corps movie. It doesn't make sense. What person, an intelligent person, would decide to do that? So I think it's an absolutely dumb move not to have the Green Lantern Corps with an epic movie on the big screen and having it as a streaming show. I do not think that is a good idea, and it's red flags upon red flags for DCU and DC Studios right now. If we go back and look at that David Cronswell interview, he said he doesn't know if he'll return. It's not up to him, and it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, what person in their right mind says that in an interview? It hardly creates confidence in the film that's coming up less than 4 months from now. We are nearly there. It's been a long journey. We've all been talking about this film for a very long time. We've been talking about the casting, the leaks, what possibly this film could be about. And, there's been a lot of, divisive conversations about this film. But what you don't expect is that to be said by the lead actor playing Clark Kent and Superman. I don't know if I'm coming back. What does that mean? Is it because they want to play their cards close to their chests in case Superman is a flop, so they don't want to make any promises? It could be that could be sensible. But again, if an interviewer says, will you be back? All you say is, if people go out and support the movie and it's successful, hopefully I'll be back. That's what you say. What you don't say is, I'm just here to say the words written by James Gunn. It's not up to me. Because what you do is, you create doubt. I've spoken about this so many times, how I suspected when the film was called Superman Legacy that they were going to kill Superman off in this movie. Absolute deal breaker for me. And there won't be a person who can defend that. Oh, Superman's dead. Now the rest of the DC characters are going to be inspired by his legacy. But there's a big chance that these characters will be inspired by Superman after this movie, and that's how the Justice League is probably formed eventually. I get that's where Gunn is going, and I don't mind that. But you can't kill Superman off and say, right, there's no Superman in this universe, but people are going to be inspired by his legacy. I get that. I like people being inspired by Superman and his legacy. What I don't want to see is Superman being killed off. And if James Gunn does that, it's dead for me. I'm a Superman fan. I love DC, but I'm a Superman fan. I want Superman to be front and center in a DC universe, as I want Batman to be front and center in a DC universe, connected universe, shared universe, live action, franchise. And it's bad enough because of this Matt Reeves situation that more than likely, we're probably not going to see a DCU Batman for a very, very long time. It's a complicated situation. I don't think there's a right or wrong here, but they're thinking very deeply what to do with the DCU Batman. So they started apparently writing a script for Brave and the Bold, but they haven't cast the Batman yet. I think maybe they have. Maybe they have cast the Batman. Maybe they have. That's one of my many theories about this situation. And maybe we'll get a shocking... If James Gunn's smart, he will reveal Batman in a post-credit scene of Superman. There could be that. And that would be very exciting. And I would be excited for that as much as anybody else. We'll have to wait and see when and if we'll see a DCU Batman.